They actually even offered us a marketing budget of $2,000 a month. We approached Coke. Coke said, piss off. You need us, we don't need you. Pepsi took us on.
So you signed up Pepsi?
Yeah, signed up Pepsi, Peters, Frito-Lay, who had chips, but they also had Twisties. And we signed up a company that produced the chocolate milk, and it also did orange juice in the freezers and Torquay drinks, you know, the lemonade. And so we had quite a few, and it started to look really good. So they paid $700,000 for this business.
So you built a business
From nothing.
Not in the area that you were even, have an idea, because you were a finance guy.
Yeah.
And this is starting with ice cream distribution and whatnot. And you sold this business within a matter of how many years?
Would have been 3 years, three, yeah.
3 years, so $700,000. So welcome to 86,400 stories. And today we record our first podcast professionally, not just the host and whatnot. And I've got something really, really special. Someone so close to heart, someone who I can call my friend, and someone who I can call a mentor. I've learned so much in the short coffee breaks I used to have with him, and I've got nothing but positive things to say about him. He's built an empire. He got it all. He lost it all, and with that, a lot of wisdom. So, without detailing too much, I'm going to introduce my guest here, Sir Lee Boueri.
Thank you, Mr. Simmer. I don't know how I'm going to live up to that very kind introduction.
No, that's I'm sure you would. There's a lot of wisdom coming, Sir Lee. We have to get it, all of you, and I'm sure the audience would love what you're all about. So just give us a brief introduction, maybe in the sense that what you did, what you built, and whatnot. I'm not giving too much away because we want to get that all of you little by little.
Yeah, no problems. Look, basically, I'm a banker, right? So I started in the ANZ back in 1980, and I started off as a teller, actually. Finished on their lending inspection, which was an audit function, which was great for a 20-year-old because we were going around the whole of New South Wales from branch to branch, checking on the manager's quality of lending, and then commenting on it and sending it back to audit department. And we'd grade the branch. So we were treated very nicely by the branch managers, especially in country towns.
Yeah.
But I was young enough to still go out with the staff.
Yeah. So you were only 20-year-old.
I was like 23, 24, something like that.
And so that must have been exciting, right? Going on to country towns and whatnot.
So they had a manager that was ready to retire that they didn't know what to do with, and they hook him up with an assistant, which was me. And you get a schedule for a year, all the branches you're going to visit, and some great, places that you wouldn't want to go to, like Crookwell or Tumbarumba.
Right.
They had T-shirts in Tumbarumba which said, "I've been to Tumba Bloody Rumba, shooting Kanga Bloody Roos."
I do remember when I was 20 years old, I was in India, and I was just mucking around, really, to be honest. So I'm sure, that's always a great start. When you're 20, you're in banking and you're going to these places, meeting managers, leadership positions and whatnot. But if we can go back a little bit and talk about your childhood, where you come from, where were you born, and a little bit on that sort of things.
Unfortunately, just passed away.
I'm so sorry to hear that, sir.
That's okay. She had a great innings. She was 92.
Perfect.
I used to say, Mum, you need to hang in there to get to 100, so the Queen sends you a letter to say congratulations, and she outlived the Queen.
There you go. You're performance managing her.
She's a migrant from Lebanon, so she came out in the 60s, and she was a single mum, divorced, with a 2-year-old son. Didn't know the language.
Wow.
And she was 30. Now, I think about me going somewhere like Italy or Germany when I was 30, not knowing the language, and then having the responsibility of a kid to raise as well. It would scare the hell out of me.
Amazing. If you think about it, like, not knowing the language, 30, single mother with a 2-year-old kid, taking all...
In the 60s, when misogyny was rife.
Wow.
So
I mean, I can just think about the mindset,
Yeah.
and growing in that kind of household would make you so strong. I would say that, right?
Well, I mean, she was a strong woman, and
Yeah,
she had to be like,
no way.
to do that. So in the first year, we lived with her sister and her husband, and Mum used to get up every morning and catch the train to the city to look for work. Couldn't speak the language,
Wow.
and one day she decided she would follow a crowd of people that were getting off at Sydenham,
Oh, right.
and so she followed this crowd, and they walked through a gate, and there was a guy in a suit at the front, and he said, "Can I help you?" And she said, "Job." And he said, "You're looking for work?" She said, "Yeah." She'd stumbled on the Postmaster General's office, which was soon to become Telstra, and then Telecom, then Telstra. So this was the workshop of Telstra back in the 60s. So, yeah, still would have been the 60s. And so he's taken her in, gave her a job in the office,
Wow.
and she stayed there for 35 years.
I think two amazing things happens. One here, she went out of the comfort zone,
Yeah,
didn't speak the language. She followed the crowd, got out at Sydenham,
yeah,
followed to the office, and this man, whoever he was, saw, something somewhere, and trusted, and gave her the job, isn't it?
yeah. Also, back then, the population of Australia was 11 million. So there was a lot of work
Okay.
for people that wanted to work. But the fact that he gave her a job in the office, I thought was remarkable. The in that, as soon as she got the job, my uncle said, "I need you to go as guarantor on a loan for me." She said, "I can't do that. I want to buy a house one day." And he laughed at her. He said, "You owe us. We brought you here on the family reunification program. Without us, you wouldn't be here. There's no room for you here. Get out."
Wow.
So after 8 months of living with them, we got kicked out. And so Mum's put a name down for government housing. And for the next 4 years, while she's on the waiting list, we're renting rooms from strangers. And she's got to leave me with these people and go to work every morning.
Oh, wow.
And
So these are strangers, or?
yeah.
Wow.
So some of them were kind, and some of them were not so kind. But she would say to them in front of me, "This is my phone number at work, and this is the police phone number. If anyone touches you, you call the police first, then call me." During school holidays was the hardest. She'd give me train fare to go see my cousins, spend a day with them from time to time. But that only worked when you're 6, 7, 8. Then we got the public housing. And this was in Surrey Hills.
Okay.
And it was one of the high rise, which today is called the block. The suicide block is the but back then it was new. Sorry, it was a new project in housing. So it was copying a Swiss model in government housing. And 14 floors, 4 blocks, hundreds of people living in this block. And Mum walks in. I remember she walks in. She goes, "This is heaven."
Wow.
For me, it was like, I was 9 or 10. It was exciting. The city is my backyard. But for her, she doesn't have to rely on anyone anymore. She's now, just for somewhere to live. She's got her own place. And in that time, she learned to speak English, learned to read and write. We got citizenship. I remember the day we went in to get the citizenship, and it was at City Town Hall. And we go through the ceremony. The city mayor was there for the ceremony because it was a city town hall. He gives us a Bible with a picture of the Queen on the inside of it. And we get home, and Mum says to me, because I used to complain all the time, "Mum, everyone calls me a wog at school. Don't make me the Lebanese sandwiches," because they go, "You're eating your wog food." Like, they all ordered meat pies and sausage rolls. And who was to know that 20 years later, they would all be eating the same food in very expensive restaurants, and it wouldn't be anywhere near as good as Mum's.
Exactly.
But back then, you want to fit in. So she pulls me aside. She goes, "Look, don't let anyone call you a wog anymore. You're Australian now. But don't ever forget your heritage. Don't forget where you came from. You've got a really rich culture." And I thank God every day that he brought us to this country.
I mean, that's I mean, the point of this podcast is all about, you can do anything really, to be honest. You can have really humble beginnings like you did. For those who don't know about Surrey Hills, I'm sure if there are millions that are watching from other parts of the world, or maybe five.
Well, this was like, if you see the movies in New York with the projects, this was like that. Consistently police in there. People, once every 6 months, someone would go to the 14th floor and commit suicide. We'd go to the 14th floor to watch the game of footy because we could see more park from the 14th.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so get our binoculars and try and watch the footy game.
Talking about footy, I mean, we haven't touched on Yes Home Loans now.
No, we haven't. No.
And I think at one time you were the sponsors of
the Bulldogs.
The Bulldogs, yes. Yes.
Back of the jersey.
Yeah, back of the jersey. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
We were in Bankstown about a year ago. I was with a friend of mine, and there was a guy wearing the Bulldogs jersey with the Yes Home Loans on the back.
Perfect.
And I said to my friend, "That's us." And she picks up her phone to take a photo, and all his friends look at her. What are you taking a photo of his back for?
But that's that's great. I mean, you mentioned footy, so I just thought I brought that in. But I wanna.
Sorry, I just want to. So it didn't end there. Mum eventually bought her own place.
Right.
Paid it off, raised me, retired from Telstra, was going back to Lebanon during our winters. For about 5 years, she never experienced a winter. She'd go over there, spend 3 months there, then come back here. And then one day she said, I'm selling the unit in Lebanon. It was overlooking the Mediterranean.
Wow, okay.
I said, why, Mum? She said, there's nothing for me there. I said, what about your friends, your family? She goes, they've got their own lives and my life's here. My friends, my family.
I can I mean, I can relate to that somehow, you know what I mean, when you go back and you see, because I come from Delhi in India, and I go back and see my friends, and I could see that they're busy in their lives, they're working and whatnot, and fair enough. I don't
they've moved on.
They've moved on, and and so have I, to be honest.
Of course.
And it's just part and parcel of life. But at the same time, we come to this great country and make good friends, meet people like yourself. It's the environment and what we create. But I think that is a really interesting story from those humble beginnings to what you created. And but before I do, I want to touch base on that. Tell us, what was your first job or work? And was working as an employee was always the goal, or was it's always back of your mind that, hey, I want to do something on my own? It's always been there.
I remember my gentleman I used to call my best friend. Him and my wife to be at the time, my fiance, and his fiance were out at dinner at a restaurant, and I said, when I'm rich, I'm going to, and he stopped me. He said, I'm sick of you saying that. What makes you think you're going to get rich? I said, and at the time I was in between jobs, so I was actually unemployed technically.
Okay.
And I said, Ted, I just feel it. Like I know, I with 100% certainty, I'm going to be successful. I said, I don't know what it is, and I don't know, but when the opportunity comes, I'm ready for it.
So you kind of, I mean, it's a gut feeling,
Yeah.
Actually, people say it's gut feeling, but it is the limbic part of the brain that is not able to explain things. And I think that is what gut feeling is all about.
I think one of the things that I was always a risk taker. So I'd always try different things to see if they worked.
And do you think that's important?
Absolutely. Every entrepreneur is a risk taker. Calculated, but not so. I mean, look at you. You've set up your business. You don't know if it's going to be successful. We're hoping it's going to be successful, and you're doing all the right things to make it successful, but you don't know. There's no guarantee. If you've got a job and you're getting an income every month, it's guaranteed. You know you're going to. It's very safe.
Yes. I think that is true. That is very safe, but I feel that, I wake up excited, and I think I kind of have a philosophy where, I mean, it's not my podcast, but I'll say, if I have a philosophy where if you just keep doing good work or great work and honest work, and the business is going to flow. money is just
Just on the side.
on the side.
It's
Yeah.
additional. Yeah,
Yeah.
you got to love what you do.
Exactly. So, I mean, from banking, a 20-year-old, doing a teller. I think you mentioned to me long back was a Citibank office, wasn't it, in the city?
Yeah. So not in the city, in Parramatta, actually. I actually moved so I left ANZ and got a job with Chase AMP, who was Chase Manhattan coming into Australia.
Right.
Partnered with AMP at the time.
And what did you do?
I was a credit analyst.
Credit analyst. Oh, wow. I know a few credit analysts.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
That's just the other side of a sales guy. Someone selling a home loan, the guy that assesses it. Then I left them to join Hooker Corporation because they were on the corner of King and Pitt Street on the 5th floor, and I had my own office. That was really enticing. And I remember going for the job interview through an agent, and the agent said, I rang her up. I said, "Did I get the job?" She said, "No, you didn't." I said, "Can I ask why?" And she said, "He didn't think that you would be strong enough to fight the credit people." I said,
wow.
"Can I call him?" She said, "Sure." So I rang her. I said, "Steve, look, I just spoke to the agent, and you're going to be my potential employer, and I'm not going to be an asshole in front of you. But if I have to be, if my back is up against the wall, then I'll come out fighting." And he said, "Mate, it takes a lot of guts for you to call me to say that. When do you want to start?"
Well, that's amazing. So again, this is a gold nugget where, you've got a call from your, agent, and they're saying that, hey, you haven't got the job. So you ask the why, and then you call the person and you convinced.
But you're addressing the issue, right? What's the obstacle and can I mitigate it?
But I think also at even though you're addressing the issue, there is a belief. I think if you look at it, there is a belief. Yeah. There was a belief in yourself. I think that is what there was confidence. There's a difference between being cocky and being with belief.
Just give you without getting too technical. While I was in that job, I had a loan for East Lakes Shopping Centre, and Pagewood Shopping Centre was being built. And East Lakes Shopping Centre had been shopped all over town, $12 million loan back in the 80s, late 80s, been shopped all over town, and nobody was interested. And Citibank private banking had seen it, had approved it, and the customers had walked away. So they were really pissed because they'd taken it to the board, $12 million, the board had approved it, and the customer decided not to take up the loan.
Wow.
Wasted all their time. And my boss said, "I'm going on holidays, but I'm really worried you're not going to get this loan through." I said, "Why are you worried?" I said, if it's doable, I'll get it done. And he said, "I'm just worried. I know you're telling me that. I'm just worried." I said, "Okay." So I've gone back into the office and I rang Citibank. And I remember the guy, Ward Westcott, who we became friends later. I said, "Ward, you've seen this deal?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "And you've approved it?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "And you haven't been paid for it?" He said, "No." I said, "Would you like to be paid for it?" He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "If you can fax me a letter of approval this afternoon and ask for $100,000 in establishment fee, we'll go halves." And he said, "Done." So he faxes. So I rang the client. I said, "I got an approval for you. They want $100,000 establishment fee." He had the money in our account. We kept 50 and we gave Citibank 50.
Well, that's that's amazing. To be able to call and to be able to convince and be able to how old were you at that time?
28, 29 maybe.
28, 29.
Yeah.
And back to the question, this was this the period where you started believing in yourself, and or was what the moment was always there within your mind that hey, I want to do something on my own.
I still didn't. At that stage, Hooker ended up going broke. It was a corporate collapse.
Okay.
So this was a corporate arm of LJ Hooker.
Okay.
And we had to find a job. And I got a job with a broker and running a Chatswood office for him, and did really well just as a finance broker. And one of the clients that I had was a financial planner. They'd been doing well, and they offered me a partnership. They did the cash flows. They showed me what I could make as a partner. And so I left and joined them and set up what was called at the time Leasing Advisory Service. And that was in the late 80s. So this was 87, 88, 89, 90. And built it. So we had city offices, William Street actually, built it to 4 staff working for me. They had about 16 working for them. I had 4 on my side. And then we had the recession we had to have. Paul Keating's tighten your belt. The corporate collapses started and everything turned. So found myself back at Mum's place in an office in one of the rooms.
Okay.
Doing finance. And
was it the first work from home?
That was the first one. And I think probably, hookers I would have been maybe 24. So I was about 28 when I was with Mum. So I've gone from $100,000 income working for myself with 4 staff to barely able to get loans because it was tough. It was the market.
So you were getting $100,000 a year, and you were 24. And what were we talking about? Like what?
Oh, this is 88, 89, 90.
88, 89, 90. I mean, that must be worth a lot right now, right?
Yeah, that'd be the equivalent of maybe 250 today.
Yeah. So at that time, a 24-year-old,
it was blowing it.
$100,000.
The slick car, I bought an investment unit, but that didn't last when.
But that's okay. I mean, you do mistakes in that kind of age and whatnot.
Of course, and holidays.
So I mean, taking into the timeline, humble background, like coming to this country, studying and doing that first job when 20-year-old and 24, $100,000 a year, and now for 4 years when the financial crisis happened, you were trying to find yourself a stable job or a career, right?
Yeah.
At the end. So what happened? Like how which is where
and a few opportunities came by. So I remember starting this one because people would come to me with an opportunity and I'd think, no, that's pie in the sky. But this one guy came to me, he said, look, and he was a friend. He said, I just left Street Ice Cream.
Ice cream?
Street Ice Cream.
Yeah, I know. It's street ice cream, yeah.
Yeah, he said, and I do the route trade, so I've got shops everywhere. He said, I've got an idea. If we go to Peter's and say, we'll give you all these shops because I've got all these customers, I reckon that we could get some of the money back from Peter's for each shop's purchase.
Okay, so just for viewers, I think Streets and Peter's are the two major
ice cream
distributors in
the route trade.
In Australia.
In the route trade. I said, Michael, I think we can do better than that. So here's what we do. We set up a buying group. We called it Collective Buying Group. We approach not just Peter's. We go for Coke and Pepsi. We go for Smith's and Frito-Lay at the time were the two. We go for Paul's and Dairy Milk. The milk. Everything that the two bread.
Yeah.
There was always a major one and a secondary one. So Smith's and Frito-Lay, Streets and Peter's, Coke and Pepsi. And so we wrote down all the products and then started to approach the company, say, we got a buying group. Sorry, I drew up a contract. I said, Michael, go to your route trade and get them to sign this as part of the buying group. They don't have to change anything. We'll come back to them each month with the rebate. I said, and whatever we get from these companies, we'll keep 5% and we'll refund the rest. If we get 100 shops, like we're getting the gross income of one shop.
So how does really it works? Just give us an example.
So you're a shopkeeper.
Yeah.
You're buying Streets Ice Cream. I approached you and I say, Sima, sign this. And it was a really loose contract. You could get out whenever you wanted. We could get out whenever we wanted.
Yeah.
Sign this contract. You don't have to change your buying pattern if you don't want to. But if you do, we'll give you a rebate on the ice cream. So if you start increasing the Peters in your freezer, if it gets to 80%, Peters 20% Streets, we'll give you 100% of the rebate, which is 15%. Peters gave us 20%.
Okay.
Right? So we keep 5%. But if you don't, if you just keep doing what you're doing, we'll give you 5% rebate anyway on Peter's Ice Cream.
Okay.
And we'll keep the 15.
Okay.
And we'll give you freezers because Peter's offered us freezers. They actually even offered us a marketing budget of $2,000 a month.
Wow. Okay.
We approached Coke. Coke said, piss off, you need us, we don't need you. Pepsi took us on.
So you signed up Pepsi?
Yeah, signed up Pepsi, Peter's, Frito-Lay, who had chips, but they also had Twisties. And we signed up a company that produced the chocolate milks, and it also did orange juice in the freezers and Torquay drinks, the lemonade. And so we had quite a few, and it started to look really good. Michael pulled out.
Okay.
I brought in.
So Michael is the partner?
Yeah. He pulled out because he got another job and he thought he could make more money as an employee.
Right.
My cousin came in who was also working in the route trade years earlier and took it over from Michael. We built it to about 170 shops and he stopped going out. And I said, Ken, what are you doing? Like you can't just stop. He said, you just want the business. You're trying to became an issue. And I had my finance business and I just started Yes Home Loans at the time as well.
I said, okay, well, this is where you just started Yes Home Loans.
Yeah, and Yes was starting to take off. And so I didn't need that headache. I said, can you take it? If you ever sell it, you give me 10%. 6 months later, David's Holdings, Campbell's Cash and Carry was buying it off us.
Wow. So Campbell's Cash and Carry is pretty big, isn't it?
Yeah. So they paid $700,000 for this business.
So you built a business
from nothing,
not in the area that you were even, have an idea because you were a finance guy.
Yeah.
And this is starting with ice cream distribution and whatnot. And you sold this business within a matter of how many years?
Would have been 3 years, three
years. So $700,000.
Yeah.
And you also had the capacity to say to your cousin, hey, look, my business, Yes Home Loans, is taking off.
Yeah.
I don't need it. You keep it.
Yeah.
Just when you sold it, give us 10% and whatnot. I mean, there's a lot to learn here. I mean, one thing is to take the risk. I go back to the belief and it is an area you didn't even knew, but you had the capability to take the risk that you could see the numbers. I know you love spreadsheets, so you must have done the cash flow.
Yeah. In fact, that's what we would do. To do the rebates each month. We actually the form that they sign, the agreement, we wrote on the bottom. We just ask them how much he's spending each month on ice cream, how much he's spending on chips, and we just write it down. That's what we based our 80%, 60%, 50%. The rebates on.
Yeah, but at the same time, it must have taken some skills to be able to sign up to Pepsi's and Straits.
Oh yeah, that was fun because I didn't realize they were in awe of the concept, right?
Exactly.
Because Pepsi was riding off the back of Peter's Ice Cream, and Peter's Ice Cream was riding off the back of Frito-Lay, and so if you didn't support us 100% in everything, you didn't get 100% of the rebates.
Yeah.
So you needed a 100% score to get 100% of the rebates, which meant that if you were buying Smith's Frito-Lay, if you were buying Pepsi, but you weren't buying Peter's Ice Cream, then you weren't going to get 100%. So Peter's could rely on the fact that they could ride off the back of Frito-Lay, and that worked for every one of those companies.
Yeah. So if I were not buying, and if I stay the way I am right now, buying Straits and Coke and whatnot,
you still get a rebate. And we felt a little bit because at that age, what I was doing was cashing the check every month, doing the rebates in cash, putting them in an envelope, and we're driving around delivering them to the shops.
Wow.
And they loved seeing us because they knew we were coming in with cash. I mean, if you weren't doing anything, you would average maybe $200 or $300 rebate a month.
And what kind of shops are we talking about? Just
corner shops.
Yeah. Just the corner small shops and whatnot, right?
Petrol stations, corner shops. So this was the route trade.
This was the route trade. Yeah. Okay. All right. Fair enough. So I mean, the massive Yes Home Loans was taking shape.
Yeah.
And that was in Parramatta. That was not a broker, right? If
No,
I'm correct.
no. And the difference is that the easiest way to describe it is, Yes Home Loans was a home loan brand. We were price makers rather than price takers. Brokers are price takers, and they're not selling their own brand; they're selling everybody else's.
Yeah. So give us an example, like substitute, like something similar to Yes Home Loans.
Rams.
Yeah.
Rams Home
Rams. Yeah. Okay.
Before Westpac bought them.
All right.
So the story of Yes Home Loans starts. I'm working for ING. We're just married. I've got a 1-year-old son. We're doing really good.
And how old were you? Sorry.
36.
36. Okay. Yeah.
I'm doing really well. We got a corporate card, could take clients out for dinner, $100,000 salary. This is 1997. I had a team of 3 people so our team was performing really, really well. ING was new in Australia at the time. And I remember saying to my wife, I'm going to leave and go out on my own.
Oh, right. Yeah. What was her reaction?
Oddly enough, do you think it'll work? I said, I'm sure it'll work. And I remember then saying it to some of the people at work quietly, I'm going to resign because I'm going to set up my own business. And they said, you're kidding. Like, how can you do that? You got a mortgage, you got a kid, and so competitive out there. I said, I know this will work because I had a business plan and I had a strategy and I'd done the spreadsheets. Even if we failed, we were going to succeed.
But I think you had the business plan, you had the strategy, you had the spreadsheet, and even if you failed, you still would have made money. But I think most importantly, I guess you also had conviction.
Yeah, absolutely. And the conviction was terribly strong. ING was the second bank to start paying trailer commissions to brokers.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. And I remember spreadsheeting that one time, thinking, because we had some brokers that were doing really well, spreadsheeting that and thinking, wow, like even though it's only 0.25%, if you keep writing business, say 4 loans a month over 5 years, that starts to look very, very impressive. That's when I thought, and then I had a client on my books that was a mortgage manager. I thought, this is even better. You start to build your own brand in the marketplace. You're responsible for your own pricing. And I had 3 brokers that were Sydney's best brokers for Citibank that I could bring on board. And
so how did the opportunity started?
Well, I actually rang them. So with Citibank, all 3 were my brokers. There was a competition. Citibank ran a competition one year. It was the last year of the Adelaide Grand Prix. It was moving to Melbourne the next year.
You mean the F1 racing?
Sorry?
The F1 racing?
F1.
Yeah.
F1, Formula One, yeah.
Yeah.
And so it was huge. They closed the whole of Rundle Street Mall and it was a party for the whole weekend. Citibank was paying for everything. And they said the 3 best relationship managers and their broker can go away for the weekend to the Grand Prix, all expenses paid. I ended up with the 3 best brokers. So there wasn't 2 others that could match it. So it was me and 3 brokers, my 3 brokers.
Okay.
They were the best in Australia at the time for Citibank. So the state manager rang me up, said, listen, since we haven't got 2 other relationship managers, do you mind if I come along? I said, no, of course, John. So the state manager came along to the Grand Prix, which was great because he was our wallet.
Oh, right.
So we'd go out for drinks. He'd pay for the drinks. Yeah. We'd go out to a club. He'd pay for the club. So that was great to have him there. But you can imagine fast cars, party atmosphere, 4 guys over a weekend, you start to bond.
I can imagine, I can imagine.
So I had a really good relationship with these 3 brokers and I rang them up. Sorry, I realized that there were companies that were accessing money through securitization, issuing bonds. If you ever watched the short story about the crash on Wall Street, it was exactly that. But they were discerning in those days with who they took on to distribute the money in mortgages. So you had to prove to them not only that...
Yeah, I mean your capabilities and all that, right?
Yeah. And I remember sitting down with my 3 brokers and I said, look, I'm going to leave. I'm going to do this. If you guys give me your first bite of the cherry with every one of your loans, I'll make sure you get the best pricing on the market. And I remember one of them, Ken, said, listen, we have to all agree to support him for this to work. And the other two said, yeah, we'll support him. So now I had my customers through these brokers. I couldn't then retail a product on the same pricing because they were getting pretty lean pricing. So I had to create a separate brand so I avoid channel conflict. So I had Mortgage Management Corp, Yes Home Loans was a retail brand. And the idea was Mortgage Management Corp could easily be built because you could keep going out to see brokers and bring them in. And you could use the profit from that to build a retail brand where the real profits were. So that was a business plan.
So
in a nutshell.
Yeah. So basically, you had your best brokers and went to Adelaide on their last Grand Prix and made this connection, and you started Yes Home Loans. So when was the time where you felt like I'm into the bigs? This is something massive.
I think it was probably a year and a half into it. Suddenly we were getting kicked out of the place we were in, the premises, and the premises next door, so that we wouldn't have a disruption in trade, was $55,000 a year, and it was 400 square meters. And I remember one of the guys saying, "We'll grow into this," because at that stage the staff was 8, and we had 55,000 a month coming in, just in margins.
55,000 a month
coming in.
Yeah.
And that was in 18 months. So I knew that we could afford this, and I thought, this is great. But it still was not big enough to be where I needed it to be. So we just kept building. Probably, and we got the prime when John Howard was the Prime Minister. He ran awards for customer service in Australia. We got John Howard's award for best customer service organisation.
Wow, Yes Home Loans.
Yeah, in New South Wales. That was the first award we got. We came second behind Telstra nationally. So New South Wales, we came first. That was the first award we got.
And that's customer service. I mean, if the customers loves you, the word of mouth, the organic leads and whatnot, it just follows through. I think you said to me right at the start of this podcast, about customers, acquisition, right?
Yeah, customer acquisition is if you can get the customer in, the customer's king. Customer is king.
Yeah. I think we have that kind of attitude. The customer is king.
Yeah.
It just works wonders.
What we used to do was when a customer settled, I had it systemized, so it was automatic. An email shot out to a florist. They had Yes Home Loans ribbons. They would wrap a bunch of flowers together, write a card that said, "Congratulations on your settlement. Welcome to Yes Home Loans," and they would deliver it to their work.
Mate, that's workflow automation.
Yeah.
So that was workflow automation before workflow automation was sexy.
No one didn't get flowers.
Wow.
And it was delivered to work because everybody would gather around and say, "Who gave you the flowers?"
Yeah. I think that's a beautiful gesture, isn't it? Like,
and we wouldn't tell them that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
We the evolution of that became baskets, corporate baskets. And I remember driving home one day, and I used to, by this stage, the business was doing really well.
How many years is this?
This is about 6 years into the business.
6 years into the business. And how big was the business?
Probably about 45 staff. We had 15 offices by then.
Right. And what was the book?
Look, it's hard to, I can tell you what the book was because we had to do the sums for the lease. I can tell you what the book was when we finished, the court case started. Or I can at least tell you what the income was.
Yeah.
I think one time I had to work out how much we settled in total, and it ended up being something like $3 billion over 12 years. But bear in mind, the average loan when I started was $160,000.
Yeah, I mean that's the house price or average,
average house price was 250.
We're talking about 30 billion right now, right? So, yeah. But you were driving, you said, sorry, right? Like,
sorry, I'm driving home one day, and what I used to go in to 2GB. We used to advertise on 2GB. Brian Milshire had a show called The Rustle of Money, and I used to go in as a co-host to rattle off about my business on Wednesday nights, and so we became friends. The jock, at the time, and I, and outside of that 1 hour Rustle of Money show, he was still the jock from drive to midnight. And I remember driving home listening to 2GB, and this lady has rung up, and it's talkback. And she said, you know how you keep talking about Yes Home Loans? He said, yeah. She said, well, I took out a loan with Yes Home Loans, and I'm thinking, shit, be a good story, be a good story. And he said, yeah, how'd it go? She said, well, I wasn't expecting it. They sent me a hamper to work. Can you believe that? I wasn't expecting it. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that's the expectation. I remember we talked about customer, is king philosophy, but you also had 45 staff. And I think, I have met you with many coffees that we had. You had also a great philosophy on your colleagues and your employees and all that. And you shared with me a story around NASA. I think that's a fascinating story to tell.
So I remember going to a talk one day, and the guy talking about this idea of a cause. A cause basically is a vision, and you could rally your whole team around a vision if it's doable and it's clear, and they can see what the vision is. So they start working to achieve the vision, being part of the team. And I remember this guy talking about JFK's vision for landing on the moon. And he's at Rice University. It was 1963, March 1963. And that was the speech where he says, we don't do this because it's easy. We do it because it's not. And he painted an amazing vision. He said, before the century's out, we're going to send a man to the moon and return him back to Earth safely. A celestial body that's 250,000 kilometers away from the Earth. We're going to send him up in a rocket that's built out of metals that we haven't yet invented.
Yeah.
It'll have the precision that'll be finer than a Swiss watch. So they haven't built rockets yet that do this, but he had the vision. And then he gets assassinated that November. So he's now underground. And I remember watching this documentary. It was about the evolution of television and cameras. And they got up to the stage where the Vietnam War was the living room war because they could have mobile cameras. And before that, they were showing this cameraman with a camera on his shoulder in NASA just before the rocket was going to go up. And this is June 1969, exactly as Kennedy had planned. And you got to remember, between the time Kennedy made that speech in 1969, there was space fever everywhere. You had sitcoms on television. It's about space. You had I Dream of Jeannie. You had Swiss Family Robot, Lost in Space, Star Trek. Like space fever was rife.
Right, yeah.
Because of that speech. Everyone believed in his vision. And Hollywood was bringing it to the screen. And this lady was reporter, says, we're here at Kennedy Space Center, and in just a month or so, we're going to be sending a man to the moon, and the atmosphere here is electric. Let's walk around and talk to some people. And she's walked up to a gentleman in a pair of overalls. He's got a hanky hanging out of the back of his pocket, and he's got a broom in his hand. She goes, sir, can you tell us what you do here? And he turns to her and he says, don't you know? I'm part of the team that's putting a man on the moon.
Wow. So it was a cleaner, really. And I think
But not any ordinary cleaner. He was the cleaner for the team that's putting the man on the wheel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, the point was that he was empowered enough to be able
Exactly.
to
He
say
was
that.
proud.
Proud. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have a similar story where I went to a very big hotel, and I think very big hotel in India, and I remember the person who was serving the food and whatnot. There was some issue with one of the food item, and I mentioned, say, look, this is something that is there, and he said, sir, don't you worry, I will bring you another one. In fact, I'll take the place. I'll bring you another one. And as I was going to pay the bill, he says the bill is on us. And this was the server at this big hotel. So I'm just guessing the believing in theory culture comes from top and flows down. And the empowerment of these employees was fascinating. I just kept, we just kept going back again and again and again, because I think that was absolutely phenomenal. And that was the customer acquisition, employee empowerment, combined.
My son worked for the Champagne Bar in the Novotel, and they got Bar of the Year in Sydney. And you should have seen how proud he was.
I mean, that's a vision. I mean, that's the vision that he's carrying along,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So what was the vision, certainly, around Yes Home Loans? Like, what did the staff knew that where we're going?
We're going to be the premier home loan company in Australia. So when all these awards started to come through, so 2005, Money Magazine nominates us Non-Bank Lender of the Year.
Non-bank lender of the year.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're on 60 Minutes, on Current Affairs. We're on the front of the magazine, and my team was just ecstatic, right? So as was I.
Yeah. And how did you feel like from a boy, coming to a new country, growing up with not much on and whatnot? How did you feel like? How big were you at that time? Like,
We weren't Aussie or Rams, but we were climbing that ladder. I remember Aussie hired a guy to do a sales training video. It was an ABC producer from Australian Broadcasting Corporation, and he came to interview me and Mark Boros from Wizard, putting this video together for the training of their staff. And he said to me, "How do you think your mum would feel knowing that she's raised a son that's done this?" Because I was telling him the story about mum, and I just teared up.
Yeah, I mean, you're tearing up right now. I think
that doesn't happen anymore. But yeah, of course.
I mean, if you relate to the story, the whole point of the podcast is around you could do anything, really.
Yeah,
to be honest. You think about it, you could do anything. I mean, here we're talking about.
I wanted to tell you when I was applying for the funding for Yes Home Loans. So I had the brokers, and I've put a business plan together. I've sent it off to the funders. AMS, they were the funder that I wanted. They were the gold level that we could get money, and they had minimal contact with the customers.
Sure.
And they said no. And I remember them saying no on this Friday. And my wife picked me up from work, and we're driving home, and I was feeling pretty down. She said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "Tonight we're going to get drunk. Tomorrow I'm going to think of a plan. Sunday and Monday I'm going to implement."
Wow, I'm a bit disappointed, because I thought you would be calling them same day.
Well, I needed to, no.
You needed to think about it, right?
Yeah, I needed time to think about it.
Yeah.
We became at one stage we were their biggest.
So you did sign them up, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So and they said no because they didn't have a back office.
Okay.
So I've rung one of the brokers. I said, "Look, my business plan doesn't detail who the principals are, so they don't know that you're not involved. Do you want to come in? You've got an office. You've got a team of 2 girls. It looks impressive, and you ring them on Monday and you just say to them, look, I think you're making a mistake. Why don't you come and look at our back office?"
Yeah. I mean, that's signing. I mean, this is the second occasion within the podcast you mentioned where somebody has said no, and you went ahead and changed. So, I mean, I'm guessing your personality is noise.
There was a time when no was not an answer.
Yeah, no is not an answer. Yeah. You could go back and whatnot. So we talked about yes, home loans. We talked about Bulldogs. Back of the jersey sponsor.
Yeah.
I'm sure you were driving an amazing car. Not that it's important, right?
No, it's not really, but
Yeah.
but yeah, it was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and go on really lovely holidays with the family. My kids went to a private school. I mean, I didn't think about it until I had to actually answer a question once on one of those question answer platforms, and it was, "What's it feel like to be rich and then become poor?"
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was going to come to that. I mean, you had it everything, and you lost, almost everything, really, to be
Yeah,
honest. And then, yeah, how? I mean, that was been the toughest spot.
yeah,
But I'm sure there must be a lot of wisdom around what you learned, you unlearned, and learned again, and whatnot, right?
absolutely, absolutely. It's funny how when you lose everything, some of the first things to go are relationships, friends.
I can imagine. Like, I mean, it's a truth of life, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
some of the close relationships, that are there all the time, when the good times are.
yeah.
um but I do believe there are also people that would stay along regardless.
No,
You
no. Well, maybe there are,
yeah.
but not in my case.
Okay.
Um, and the rose-colored glasses came off. So this guy that was my best friend that I've known since we were 3, 4, um, the rose-colored glasses came off, and I realised that because I brought him into the business, and I gave him 20% equity in the business, and he stayed with me for 6 years, and then he says, "I'm leaving, pay me out." And that wasn't enough. He started to attack our brokers and staff, and um, so that hurt.
Yeah,
That was
yeah,
very hurt. It
yeah,
was a 40-year relationship, and that was even more painful than the divorce.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So yeah. No, in my case, and a lot of family and friends at the time needed either a job or a new. I had a cousin who I'd grown up with, and his wife said to me, "Lee," and he was a hairdresser, and reasonably successful as far as hairdressers go. And she said, "Lee, he's getting a really sore back. Is there any chance that he could work for you? If it doesn't work out, we're not going to blame you." I said, "No, of course, Lucy." So Michael comes into the business. I teach him finance. Set him up in a franchise. Not only set him up in a franchise, I remember one day going through it was school holidays, so I took time off with the kids. I'm sitting in a cafe and I'm going through the classified section of the newspaper, and someone was trying to sell a brokerage business. I was just curious. I rang up and they said, "Oh, we're attached to a real estate agency, and we now want to sell this. And with it comes a real estate agency who can provide you with the customers. And I've got a system set up to make sure you get leads from the real estate agency." I said, "It sounds good." Um, so I went to meet with him, and the real estate agency had about 7 offices scattered around Western Sydney.
mhm.
And I gave it to my cousin. I said, "Michael, set up a franchise. Business is going to walk through the door for you." Um,
And you got the training and what. I mean,
and now we don't talk. So,
yeah, but in the good time, you were there for everyone. I
yeah,
think you will remember that part. Some things you can change, something you can't
you
change. I
can't
mean, the
change.
past
No,
you can't change
no.
at all, but something,
And
will.
I think what happens because it grew on me, you take success for granted because it's not like you wake up one day and you've got a lot of money
But
coming
what
in.
was success? Like what? I mean, if you talk about a weekend or Friday or what, at your peak, what was it like? Were you, I mean, champagnes and whatnot? Like,
Okay,
just give us
so
a.
once a year I'd go to the States on a conference. My wife every 6 months would go to Hong Kong.
Yeah,
She wanted to fly business class. She refused to fly first class, but that was her choice,
yeah,
not
yeah.
mine. I used to try to convince her. And I remember when I started this business, we were in a townhouse in Cremorne, and she wanted a house. I said, "Look," and I could see the business growing. I said, "Look, if you wait 2 years, we could buy something really special." And so she hung in there. We bought a 3-story house with a turret overlooking Willoughby Bay, and then we renovated it, and it had a swimming pool and backyard. Like, this is one of the best suburbs in Sydney.
Yeah. I mean, I would have asked you, like, what was the difficult part losing it all? Like, was it financial? Was it emotional? But I think from just speaking to you, more emotional than
Yeah, it was the emotion. It was the relationships that went away. I think one of the things that I realized is how easy it is to take the moral high ground when you've got a lot of money. It's much, much harder when you don't have a lot of money to make a moral decision in many instances.
yeah. And coming past that and restarting your innings and whatnot, I'm sure that would have been difficult, but there were skills that you always had. You're a positive, proactive. What are some of the learnings or something that, you're now bringing forward? I mean,
I remember one day talking to some people who had been successful and had lost everything. And I said, well, why didn't you do it again? And she said, we've lost the fire in the belly.
right.
And I understand that. The pilot light can start to dim because suddenly being successful is not important anymore. It's not the success that's important. It's not the money that's important. It's doing what you love doing, enjoying what you do, and having the ability to be able to do that. That's money. Success brings you financial freedom, sure, but it also ties you to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
So you're carrying the weight of. Well, I felt at times I was carrying the weight of 80 staff.
Yeah.
Right.
Responsibilities
Yeah,
and whatnot.
not even just responsibility. If they had an issue, then if I could help, I would have to help because I'm the boss.
Yeah. I mean, you're that kind of boss as well, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I and probably too soft. So if I was a bit more of an asshole, it probably would have been able to hang on to a bit more money. But I mean, look, I don't want to change that.
Yeah.
I'm happy in myself with the way.
Yeah. I mean, I think we all agree that, we become more wiser, isn't it? Like as,
for
as the
sure.
time goes along and whatnot. And like you said, I have come past that with a less fire in the belly, but I always see you working and whatnot. Even right now, you were mentioning it to me. How you've just signed up on a franchise with mortgages, complex finance, complex commercial finance deals and whatnot. And there's a lot to learn from you as well. I think I remember you mentioning one of the mortgage was it the mortgage agency or something, FIBA or something. It's called
MFAA.
MFAA. Yeah. I mean, you were part of the policy making and whatnot.
Yeah. So look, I had a lot of time to do stuff that I was on the speaking circuit for 4 years, the corporate speaking circuit. Loved it. I remember the first time getting up in front of a crowd and shaking when I had to talk, and then by the end of it, it came naturally. Gave it up only because I wanted to go back to focus on my business again. I was on the council of the MFAA. That was a voluntary job. Even when I'd lost it all, I was on the board of a NGO that was raising money for kids with autism.
Oh, beautiful! Yeah,
and I was doing that for 2 years till COVID hit. And even though I didn't have the money, I knew I was contributing something to the business. To
100%. I mean, the reason I say I met a broker not long ago, finance broker, and she was celebrating 10 or 20 years with FBAA, right?
Right. Okay.
And and I said, look, I know someone that is associated with that
MFAA. There's two bodies.
Sorry,
there's FBAA is one, and MFAA is the other.
I think I think she was with both, from what I remember, MFAA and FBAA and whatnot. And I mentioned, I said, I know someone that that have been associated with that early stages and whatnot. And I mentioned your name, and she said, "Oh, I know this person. I think it was one of the foundations and whatnot." And really, if you think about it, right? I mean, life will throw curveballs and whatnot, all the time. But there was a peak, a massive peak, that not a lot of people can imagine. And it came from nothing too, right?
Yeah, it did. And then, that sense that you did it yourself. Well, it wasn't myself. I had a team of people that I could rely on to help. But initially, the spark was me.
Yeah, but if I ask you, like, if there's anything that you could change in that era, in terms of one thing that that trigger that whether a mistake or an error or error of judgment or something that I'm sure you could have picked
A
that
lot,
moment.
a
Yeah,
lot,
yeah,
a lot. There's those sliding door moments.
yeah.
If only I'd done this
Exactly. Yeah,
instead of that.
exactly. I'm sure.
And it's easy to put the blame on everybody else
Yeah,
for
yeah,
everything else. You've got to take responsibility for your own decisions as well.
yeah. I mean, what I love about Australia, to be honest, I mean, having spent time in Europe and Asia, been to different parts of the world and whatnot. He's the light at the end of the tunnel. I think that attitude of light at the end of the tunnel and the positive glass half full attitude.
Yeah,
There is not a lot of other countries in the world that have that kind of attitude, and I think anyone can do anything, and at any time. I feel that if your environment is right, we can trigger the fire in the belly. When
yeah,
you have the right people.
yeah, and what I think we all are given opportunities, and we're too scared to take those opportunities. But if you're ready to take an opportunity, and it's presented to you, you'll recognize it.
Yeah.
If you recognize it and don't take it, then that's sad.
That is sad. Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I would ask you last couple of questions, like
Sure.
maybe last one or two, and one would be: I think a lot of people would associate with this. A lot of people come to either a country like Australia, England, or
One of the
US, or
Western democracies, yeah.
other part of the world, and they're working full time and whatnot, and they want to take the next step. They're scared. They have mortgages to pay. They have bills to pay and whatnot. Uh, you know, they might not have enough conviction and whatnot, but part of conviction still stays and whatnot. And it just, takes time to even take the next step. What is your message? You're a risk taker yourself, you mentioned, but what is your message to these people if they exist?
Well, one of my friends left school in year 10 to become a plumber. He worked for the railways as an apprentice.
Yeah.
He approached us for a loan because he had joined a consultancy firm
Yeah.
that was doing designing plumbing for new buildings. And his boss was offering a partnership, and
Okay.
he wanted him to pay 120,000 for it. And we organised the loan, gave him 120,000. He is now the sole owner of the biggest plumbing consultancy firm, commercial plumbing consultancy firm in the country. He fits out the plumbing for all the Pizza Huts and KFCs that go up. He does high rises around Brisbane, and from a plumber at the railways. I think if you do what you know and you're very good at it, and you know you're good at it, then how can you go wrong?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, again, but you just got to take the step.
You've got to take
Just got to take the step.
You've got to believe in yourself.
Yeah, you just
That's,
you got to believe in yourself. You just got to take the next step. Have a 1,000-day rule, I would say. Just stick to
explain the 1,000-day rule.
well, my philosophy have changed over a period of time, but last few years I've learned a trick that comes from a business community, a business community for generations or in centuries. They live with this philosophy that if you're starting something, you take your time starting something, but if you made the conviction, if you want to start something, you want to do the right thing, spend 1,000 days on that project. Don't quit in 6 months, don't quit in 12 months.
Yeah.
Give it the right time. And the easier way to put it is 1,000 days. Just cut it off and whatnot. That's just a traditional.
What's that in years? So 300 is about 3.5 years.
Yeah, I mean it would be maybe a little bit less. I think
a little bit less, yeah.
A little bit less. Yeah, 2 years or something.
3 years, 300 days. Oh, 363. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. One last thing, we'll wrap it up, and if somebody has to, I want to bring a little bit of fun around you because you are a funny guy.
Okay, so to tell you a joke. Look, while I was driving here, I thought this was gold.
Sure.
So this couple have gone in to see their doctor, and they said, "Look, we just want to ask you about sex. He says, yeah. So the woman and the man take their clothes off and they start having sex. When they're done, the doctor says, no, you're fine. You're doing it. I don't understand. And he charges them $50 and they leave. They come back a month later and do the same thing again. They do it a third time and the doctor says, hang on. What's going on here? What, like, you coming here? It's costing you $50. They said, yeah. Look, I'm married. The guy says, I'm married. I can't go to my place. My wife's married. She can't go to her place. If we book the Hilton, it's going to be $400 a night for the room. If we book the travel lodge, it's going to be $180 a night for the room. We come here, we pay you $50 and we get 43 back on Medicare.
I think that's a good one.
Which is only in Australia, right?
Only in Australia. Yeah, Medicare is only in Australia. Depending on what refunds you get back from the government. But mate, look, to be honest, Lee, it was a pleasure having you. And
it was a pleasure being here. It was a lot of fun. Thank you, Captain.
Thank you so much. And Sir Lee calls me Captain. It's a story for another time.
Airline pilot.
Yeah, and thank you so much. And I think there was a lot of wisdom out there. There's a lot of golden nuggets. With what we're talking, there was a lot of deep, deep empathy, emotions around what you mentioned. It was difficult for you to talk as well, as I could see, but at the same time,
it was lovely. It was a lot of fun. You made it very easy, very indulgent. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
No problem. Thank you so much. That's it from 86 400 Stories.